Champions Cup match, folks. Munster in their slightly faded jersey get a 17 points to 12 win over Saracens in what felt like a proper kind of Champions Cup arm wrestle match, which goes down to the wire. Saracens were ahead for large periods of this match, but only from the boot. They never really looked that threatening to the Munster line. Munster's defence in that regard was pretty strong, led by the likes of Tyke Byrne, who ends up getting man of the match. But yeah, a couple of second half tries from the Munster lads sends the home crowd back home happy, I suppose. And the crowd was in pretty good voice, helped push their team through to a victory. But we'll go through the key events and the stats, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on this one. Solid start, though, from Saracens. They put in a lot of kicks, which had the Munster backfield under a bit of pressure. And with that territorial pressure came some Saracens penalties. They slotted a first and a second to give themselves a 6 points to 0 lead, which is a good way for them to start the game. And what kind of felt like almost felt like a knockout match. Like it wasn't. It's still a pool stage match, but it felt like a match which is maybe going to be decided by kicks at goal. And as I said, their early strategy to keep Munster pinned back, you felt like worked pretty well. We flew through the first 20 minutes. There was a TMO look at a kind of clean out, but it was a bit of one of those kind of waste of time ones. Luckily, the matches I've been watching thus far this weekend haven't had a lot of TMO. That one was a slight interjection, but thankfully nothing doing because it was genuinely just a kind of collision between two players. Munster did get a penalty down Saracens' end on 24 minutes. They also slotted it to make it 6 points to 3. And I feel like that's when the crowd kind of started firing up a bit, because with Saracens pushing the Munster boys back, the crowd was maybe a little bit, can you be on the back foot when you're sitting on your butt? Not really, but the crowd wasn't given that moment to really get behind the lads. They did start to get it from there. Munster survived the charge down on 27 minutes from a kick, and that led to a counter-attack, which was maybe the most kind of like, if you're boiling this game down to highlights, one of the most highlight-worthy moments of the game, but it didn't end up anything. But Jack Crowley, counter-attacking play, chips over the top, perfect bounce, regathers, chips over the top again, regathers, and then is just looking to set up the kind of finishing move on this play, and just ends up kind of bobbling it. He ends up trying to chuck a foot at it, so it looks like he's going for the third kick, but nothing ends up coming for it. It would have been magnificent if he'd managed to score or set up a play which scored, but still nothing doing. But it was, I hope they show that in the highlights, because it was something pretty cool, even if it ends in a knock-on. Then there's a couple of errors. Munster missed touch from penalty. Liam Williams has a chance to intercept for Saracens, but ends up knocking it on. Saracens do get a warning from the ref for conceding a few too many penalties. Munster try to punish with a maul. Saracens managed to shut it down. So we go into the halftime sheds, 6 points to 3, with Saracens in the lead. Territory and possession have been pretty even, but there's only been 2 line breaks in the game, both of them for Munster. That's what I mean about, like, Saracens able to keep the scoreboard ticking over, but not really looking like scoring tries. Turnovers conceded for Munster, 14 to the 6 from Sarries. A fair few of those from kicks through from the Sarries lads, which was putting Munster under pressure. Saracens have kicked 19 times in the half. Munster have kicked 16, so there's a fair bit of boot to ball. But, Saracens, you feel like we're getting the better of it. But both sides' defensive tackling stats were phenomenal, both in the 90s, hence no tries in the first half. Second half, again, Saracens push back with some territorial kicking, and they end up getting another penalty from it. A very similar story to the start of the first half. So it's 9 points to 3. And Saracens are starting to look, I don't know, like, it feels like the kind of game where it could just keep that way. It could just keep going. Maybe it'll be 12-3. Maybe it'll be 12-6. Maybe it's just gonna keep going with an exchange of penalties. But Munster, I feel like, had a couple of turning points. One was when Crowley missed a kind of kickable penalty. He shifted that one wide. And then after a bit of helter-skelter play, and Saracens had Munster down their own end, Munster ended up holding the Saracens guys out to the point where Saracens getting pushed back, opted for a drop goal. I don't want to say that was kind of like waving the white flag, but it was almost like, probably not going to score here, so maybe we do need to go for the 3. And because that went wide, I feel like that was a bit of a moral victory, motivational victory for the Munster guys. And then they pushed on later, only like 2 minutes after that missed drop goal, to get the first try of the game through Blula. Gavin Coombs, the big unit that he is, went bloody close to the line, and then pick and go from Blula with the conversion from Crowley means Munster go in front, and now the crowd is absolutely baying for blood. They are properly into the game. Like they had been maybe even a bit earlier when like Itoje had won a penalty which they didn't like, but crowd is really, really into this point. And then they get a second try only 5 minutes later through Hodnett. That one set up by a Jack Crowley. Nice cross kick. Hodnett gets ankle tapped by Liam Williams, but he's still able to kind of pick himself back up and go for the try. So 2 tries in quick succession, 17 points to 9. It's flipped the game on its head. Suddenly Munster are looking like there's no way Saracens are going to score that many points, although they did get a penalty on 69 minutes to at least make it a one-score game. But they still didn't look that much like scoring a try. Tyke Burns shut down a Saracens maul, which was a bloody masterclass. Again, highlight worthy. It probably won't get shown, but it was a hell of a maul stop from big Tyke Burns. He does that so well. And then they did have maybe their best chance of the game, Saracens, in terms of try scoring on 74 minutes when you had Lazowski and Liam Williams combining. Liam Williams kind of was just shaping to dummy and then just spilled the ball. That one was brutal. Like their scrum penalties had been getting them into Munster's territory in the latter periods of that second half, but unable to convert. Saracens had a forward pass not too long before full time as they were trying to push for the try, which meant Munster, with possession, probably can just see out the game, go through some phases, but I swear when they just had one phase to go, Ahern knocked it on, which gave Saracens one more chance. I feel like sometimes, I've seen it done I think once in a game where there was just a couple of seconds go, the halfback, instead of just passing it for one more phase, just ran backwards towards their own goal line and watched the clock tick down. Well, players don't do that. I think I've only seen it once. But with Ahern dropping it, it was one chance for Saracens, but they never really looked like scoring it. Eventually they knock it on. So, yeah, Munster's defence is pretty ironclad. They don't concede a single line break the entire game. Line breaks finish 4-0, which is low. Like I think in the game we watched between Toulouse and the Sharks, I won't spoil any scores or anything, but I think that one had was it 13 or 12 line breaks in the first half alone? Yeah, so 4 in this game. That's what I mean by it felt like a knockout game. Position and territory pretty much even. Defenders beaten pretty even, 13 apiece. So both sides tackled really well. Both sides in the 90s for their defensive tackling stats, which is exceptional. Kicking from hand is high, 35-36. So, when you're closing in on 40 kicks from each team in a game, it means it is a key part of the strategy, and it is why Wemby we don't see so many line breaks, because there was a fair bit more boot to ball, but playing to the conditions. Tom Willis was good for Sarries, 56 metres, 4 defenders beaten from him. Crowley had 60 metres on the carry. John Hodnett had 3 defenders beaten. Juan Martin Gonzalez for Sarries had 17 tackles. Finney Wycherley had 7 lineouts won, but Tyke Burns was bloody everywhere, shutting down mauls, threaded the breakdown, making tackles. So yeah, Munster 17 points to 12. They've got Northampton in their final group stage game away, and Saracens will be back home to cast. I'm going to watch one more Champions Cup game this morning before I go and see the old man for lunch, but you guys let us know your thoughts on Munster's arm wrestle win over Sarries. And yes, I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.